Okay, picture this. You've just gotten some feedback, maybe, a formal review, maybe just a comment someone made about your work, maybe even something personal. And boom, instantly, you feel it, right? That kind of jolt, tightness in the chest, maybe you get defensive.
Oh, yeah.
It feels as a punch, like a personal attack, even if logically it's probably just about like a specific thing you did.
That reaction, that really immediate gut feeling, it's so common. And when you look at the research, the psychology sources, it actually makes a whole lot of sense.
Okay.
Our brains, they're basically wired to see criticism not just as, a disagreement or a note on performance,
Right.
but as a primal threat.
A primal threat. Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds intense. But yeah, it really can feel that way sometimes. Why is it so, baked in?
Well, think about it evolutionarily, right? For ages, our safety, our survival, it really depended on where we stood in the group.
Our tribe? Sort of.
Exactly. Being rejected, losing face, that could be literally dangerous. So the sources we looked at suggest our brains process that kind of social judgment, anything that threatens our standing, almost the same way they process physical danger. It hits those really deep needs for safety, for belonging, not just, surface level self-esteem stuff.
So criticism can actually feel like a threat to your survival, to your place.
It genuinely can, yeah. It taps into that ancient wiring.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just me being overly sensitive then.
Not at all. It's our biology screaming danger, basically.
Yeah, there's more, right? Something about negativity.
Yes, exactly. On top of that primal threat response, we have this well-known thing called the negativity bias.
Right, I've heard of that.
Our brains are just designed to grab onto negative stuff, think about it more, remember it way more strongly than the positive things.
Makes sense for survival, I guess.
Yeah.
Remember the danger?
Precisely. Better to dwell on the lion you almost met than the nice berries you found. So one piece of criticism, it just naturally hits harder and sticks around way longer than even, say, 5 compliments.
Okay, so our biology really sets us up for this big, often kind of overwhelming reaction. And that reaction can totally block us from actually hearing what's useful in the feedback.
Exactly, which is why we're doing this deep dive. We're digging into the source material to understand the why behind it all, and more importantly, to give you some tools, real tools to navigate this.
Right, so the mission here is, how do you separate the useful bits, the actual insights, from all that emotional static?
Yeah, how do you get the value from feedback without letting it tear down your self-worth? It's really about using criticism to grow, but keeping that core sense of who you are intact.
Okay, so our brain's reacting like it's under attack.
Yeah.
Where does that feeling come from, that my actual value as a person is tied to what someone else is saying?
Well, a really big piece of this puzzle is something called contingent self-worth.
Contingent self-worth.
Okay. Yeah, it's this idea that your feeling of being worthy, being good enough, it's conditional. It gets tied directly to how well you perform, what you achieve, or what other people think about you.
And this starts early, like in childhood.
Very often, yeah. The research suggests it often stems from the kind of feedback we got as kids.
Ah, okay. Like the difference between you did a good job drawing that picture versus something else.
Exactly. The studies make this really crucial distinction. There are 2 main types of feedback kids get, and they have these long-lasting effects. First, there's person feedback.
Person feedback.
Yeah, it focuses on the child's traits, their abilities, who they are. So things like, you are so smart, or you're such a good artist.
Okay.
But also the negative versions, like, I'm so disappointed in you, or you're being bad. It's about the person's identity.
Got it. Feedback about who you are. What's the other type?
The other is process feedback. This focuses on the effort, the strategy they used, the specific action, or the results.
So more about the doing.
Exactly, like, wow, you worked really hard on that puzzle, or, that way didn't work, maybe we could try another way, or even, see, the tower fell because these blocks here are crooked. It's about what happened, not who the child is.
And why does this difference matter so much?
It matters hugely, according to these studies, because, and this is kind of counterintuitive, that person feedback, even the positive stuff, like, you're so smart, it actually makes kids more vulnerable later on. They develop what the researchers call a helpless response when they inevitably stumble or fail.
Helpless response. How does that work?
Well, if their performance doesn't match up to that smart label, they take the failure personally. They internalize it as meaning something fundamental about them is lacking. The thought becomes, oh, I guess I'm actually not smart, or I messed up, so I must be a bad person. It leads them to try less hard, expect less of themselves, give up more easily. The failure feels like proof that their core self is flawed.
So it goes from, I failed at this task, straight to, I am the failure.
Precisely. But process feedback, that encourages what's called a mastery-oriented response.
Mastery-oriented. Okay.
When these kids face difficulty, they focus on things they can change, their effort, their strategy. They think, okay, that didn't work. What else can I try? Or I just need more practice. Failure is just information, data for figuring it out, not a judgment.
I can totally see how those patterns would stick with you.
Yeah.
So how does this play out when we're adults? Like, say, at work?
Oh, it carries right over, big time. We get into our careers and suddenly we're getting performance reviews, right?
Yeah.
Annual reviews, that sort of thing.
Yep. The dreaded annual review.
And looking at insights from, management perspectives, organizational behavior, it's clear that those reviews, they're often not just a pure, honest assessment of your work.
Really? What else is going on? They aren't just about how well you did.
Often, no. The material we reviewed points to all sorts of things outside your actual performance that sway the feedback, like company quotas or bell curves.
Bell curves, where they force rankings.
Exactly. Where managers might have to rate a certain percentage of people as average or even below just to fit the curve. Maybe it's for budget reasons, maybe it's just policy, but it might have nothing to do with how well everyone actually did.
So you could knock it out of the park all year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was this one example, someone working in R&D literally got 3 patents approved in 1 year. Huge achievements, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Still got rated average in their review. And they were just baffled, like, what more do I have to do?
Oh, man, that would be incredibly demoralizing.
Totally. And another thing is how reviews are sometimes written. They can be really carefully worded to avoid, legal trouble.
Right.
Which means the feedback might end up being kind of vague or too generic, not the real specific stuff you actually need to hear to improve, because being blunt can be risky for the company.
So you end up getting feedback that feels like this huge judgment on you, like you're not cutting it, or a rating that just doesn't match reality. And it might be driven by company politics or legal caution, not your actual work.
Precisely. And this leads to, I think, the most powerful insight from looking at all this material together.
Okay.
If you let someone else, your boss, a reviewer on a forum, some random critic define your worth based on their evaluation, an evaluation that could be skewed by quotas or fear or their own bad day, you are literally giving away your power.
Wow. Yeah. That hits home. My value isn't that number on the form.
It absolutely cannot be. As one source put it so well, there's only one person who truly gets to decide your self-worth, and that person is you.
Okay. So we get why it hurts so much. We see the old patterns, the external stuff that messes with the feedback, and we know we need to take that power back. But how? How do you actually do that? How do you separate the useful information from that feeling of being judged?
Right. It really has to start with a conscious shift in your mindset.
Okay.
Instead of that knee-jerk reaction, seeing criticism as an attack or proof of your flaws, you actively try to see it as an opportunity.
An opportunity, even when it stings.
Even then, try to frame it as data. It's like a window, right, into how other people see things, maybe showing you a blind spot you just couldn't see yourself.
So like valuable intel.
Exactly. You can even try to sort of practice gratitude for the perspective, even if it was delivered terribly. This whole approach ties right into cultivating a growth mindset.
The idea that you can improve, abilities aren't fixed.
Precisely. If you believe you can develop, then feedback isn't a final verdict on you. It's just information, fuel for getting better.
But what about that initial punch in the gut feeling? The emotion is still there, isn't it? How do you handle that to even get to the information part?
That's key. You have to acknowledge that first reaction, IS emotional. It A is that threat response. So the first practical step, pause.
Stop. Breathe.
Yeah. Give yourself some time. Don't feel like you have to respond right away, especially if it felt personal or really stung. Let yourself cool down.
Okay.
Then, once you've got a little distance, you can try to consciously strip away the delivery, the tone of voice, the harsh words maybe. Look past the packaging. What's the core message here? Is it about something specific I did, a skill I could work on, an outcome? Ask yourself, like, okay, beneath the emotion, what's the actual nugget of information here? What could I learn?
So you're like decrypting it,
Yeah.
looking for the signal in the noise.
That's a great way to put it. And a really powerful technique for this, drawn from cognitive behavioral therapy, is reframing.
Reframing.
Yeah. When criticism triggers one of those big unhelpful thoughts like, Say you get some tough feedback and your brain jumps to, my boss thinks I'm totally incompetent.
Right, that sinking feeling.
You actively challenge that thought. You don't just accept it.
How do you challenge your own thought? Feels
Like you
weird.
should sort of put it on trial. You ask, okay, what's the actual evidence for this thought? My boss thinks I'm incompetent. What's the evidence against it? And really push yourself. Is the evidence I'm looking at a fact, something observable, or is it my assumption, my interpretation, my fear talking?
Fact versus assumption. Okay?
Then you brainstorm alternatives. How else could I see this? What's a more balanced, realistic view?
Like finding the middle ground.
Exactly. So the example reframing for my boss thinks I'm horrible could become something like, okay, my boss pointed out an area for improvement they want me to develop so I can move up, and they have told me things I do well in the past. See how that shifts it?
Yeah, it changes it from this huge personal judgment to
Yeah.
specific feedback within a bigger picture.
Right. It takes practice, for sure, but it's a skill you can build.
That makes a lot of sense. And thinking back to the kids' feedback, the person versus process thing, it sounds like when we receive feedback, we should also try to focus on the process or the behavior, not make it about us.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic connection. Just like giving process feedback is better, receiving it that way is key for protecting your self-worth. When you hear criticism, deliberately steer your focus to the what. What specific actions, strategies, or outcomes are being talked about?
Keep it about the task, not the person.
Exactly. That keeps it in the realm of things that can be changed, practiced, improved. It aligns with that mastery mindset. It's about the work, not about your fundamental being.
I guess we also need to consider who is giving the feedback, right? Not all criticism is created equal.
Definitely not. Evaluating the source and the context is super important. Ask yourself, does this person actually have expertise here? What are their likely intentions? Are they genuinely trying to help me grow? Or are they maybe just venting or have some other agenda? And vague feedback, like someone just saying, you need to step it up. That's really hard to act on. It's often worth asking for specifics. Could you give me an example? Or what would stepping it up look like in this situation?
Right. So you can filter out the stuff that's just noise or unfair or too vague.
Exactly. Filter out the noise.
Okay. So filter, take a breath, reframe maybe, evaluate the source. What's next in actually using the feedback?
Well, just hearing it isn't enough, right?
No.
Self-reflection is absolutely vital. You need to actually sit with it, process it internally.
Think it through.
Yeah. Insights from training people on this show that reflection is what allows you to really integrate the feedback, to understand it deeply and figure out how to apply it. Without that reflection time, you might just dismiss it or maybe misunderstand it.
What helps with reflection? Just thinking.
Thinking helps. Journaling about it can be really powerful. Writing down the feedback, your initial reaction, your reframing attempts, talking it over with a trusted friend or mentor, someone who can offer perspective.
So it's like the bridge between hearing it and actually doing something different.
Perfectly put. And that leads right into the final crucial piece, taking action.
Right. Got to do something with it.
Criticism, even the most brilliant insight, is just noise if it doesn't lead to anything. So if you've processed it, reflected, and decided, yes, this is valid, this is useful, then you need a plan.
A concrete plan, not just I'll try harder.
Exactly. Set specific, maybe measurable goals based on what you learned. Find resources, maybe it's a book, a course, talking to someone who's good at that thing. And then this is key, you have to practice.
It's a skill.
It absolutely is. Handling criticism well, learning from it, making changes, it's a skill that builds resilience. And like any skill, repetition makes you better. Receive, process, reflect, act, repeat.
Okay. But what about those times when the feedback really is unfair? Or it's tied to those weird corporate things like the bell curve? How do you stop that stuff from getting under your skin and messing with your self-worth?
That's where self-compassion becomes so important. You have to balance that drive to learn and improve with being kind to yourself.
Don't beat yourself up over every little thing.
Right. You don't have to internalize every single piece of criticism as gospel truth. Some of it will be inaccurate. Some will be delivered badly. Some will be about factors totally outside your control, like that patent example getting an average rating.
So acknowledge it, but don't necessarily own it.
Pretty much. Process it, see if there's anything useful, but consciously filter out the junk. Recognize when it's not really about you. And remember your strengths. Celebrate your wins. Be kind to yourself through the process. Which brings us right back to that fundamental separation.
The work versus the self.
Exactly. Remember, work is something I do. It is not who I am.
That phrase feels Really liberating, actually.
It should. Your job performance, one review score, one person's critical comment, that's not the sum total of your value. Your worth is inherent. And it's reflected in so many other things. Your relationships, your values, your curiosity, how you treat people, whether colleagues trust you, maybe your ability to teach someone something new. Don't give away the power to define your worth to these external, often flawed measures.
Wow. Okay. This has been quite the journey. We started really understanding the biology, why criticism literally feels like a threat, and how those early childhood messages can link our worth to performance.
Right. And then how adult feedback systems like reviews can be skewed by things that have very little to do with our actual contributions or value.
But then we moved into the how. Shifting the mindset, seeing criticism as information, as an opportunity, separating that initial emotional hit from the actual insight.
Mm-hmm. Using tools like reframing to challenge those automatic negative thoughts, consciously focusing on the process, the behavior, not making it about your identity.
Evaluating the source, filtering the noise.
And then the crucial steps of self-reflection to really integrate it and taking concrete action based on what's valid.
And all of it really resting on that core idea. Your worth isn't up for grabs based on what other people see or how they rate you.
Exactly. You control how you interpret feedback, how you use it. You decide your worth. It's a skill, and practicing it builds that resilience, that ability to grow from challenges.
So wrapping this up, here's a final thought for you to take away. If you really start to master this separating feedback from self-worth, consistently seeing it as data for growth, what might open up for you?
Yeah. What new areas of your life or work might you explore if you started actively seeking constructive criticism instead of just bracing for it, even in places you kind of avoid looking right now?
Something powerful to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.